For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. Remember, they are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
I got to fix that too. Greetings, fellow thought criminals. Thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauer. Today I'm joined by Andrew Mueller from the New American and the Liberty Sentinel, among other places. How you doing this morning, Andrew?
It has been a crazy week, Michael, but it's election day in Kentucky. We're covering it, and we just have a lot to discuss.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be the main thing we dive into, because today is the day. Will Massie get primaried? I mean, he really is just up against a smear machine. And sorry, guys, let me fix the volume right now. I'm on a new computer, and we're going to have a few little hiccups along the way. Where's my audio control? Sorry, 1 second, guys. Audio mixer, here we go. So I don't know why this keeps jumping up to the top, but there we go. All right. I mean, this is, you've got a great article up, and I should probably just go ahead and put that up here on the screen, where you really dove into this. You even talked to the alleged victim. But this is just, Massie is a constitutionalist. He is right. Trump is in the wrong here. And the big thing that set it off, just like with Marjorie Taylor Greene and other people that Trump's gone after, is the Epstein files. And sorry, Massie is correct. They're trying to make him sound like a traitor. Oh, he's working with Ro Khanna. Well, again, sorry. Ro Khanna is correct. This stuff should be released. I don't understand the cover-up mentality, or why we can't prosecute clear criminals that are part of this supra government. We might have just lost Andrew for a second. And Andy's back. But here, I'll hand it off to you. I'm going to fix a couple things on the audio real quick, and then let me get your cover up here real fast.
Sure. So the whole story behind all of this is last Tuesday, a week ago. Of course, the election's today, Kentucky's 4th congressional district, I believe it is. You have Ed Gallerin, Trump's, pick, Trump's blessed successor to Thomas Massie, is running against Massie. And just for context, Massie, of course, has been in Congress for quite a while. He is a staunch constitutionalist. Some might even say he's more on the libertarian side. According to the New Americans Freedom Index, he often scores 99 to 100%. That's his voting record based on the Constitution. That consists of voting against foreign aid. That consists of voting against, the debt, in expanding the debt. That would be, being involved in foreign wars, etc. Things like that. So Massie's a great politician in so much as his fidelity to the Constitution. So we knew all that. So Trump has not liked Massie because of his pushback on the big, beautiful bill and some of the unconstitutional measures in it, despite some of the good. Trump and Massie have bickered over the Epstein files. Of course, Massie wants all the Epstein files released. He wants prosecutions. He, in fact, was the one who passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act that Trump signed. That was Massie's legislation. So there's been this growing tension over these issues. And people, I think, get it wrong that Massie is against MAGA or whatever. He actually votes with the MAGA agenda vast majority of the time.
Yes.
So with that context understood, he has been targeted by the crowd that supports Trump that's more Israel sympathetic, the John Paulsons of the world, the Miriam Adelsons of the world. Those individuals who do have deep ties to the state of Israel have donated well over $10 million to Ed Gallerin. Now, and I'm setting this up and then we'll get into West. A typical congressional race usually gets 500,000 to $1 million on the high side. This election has total, both sides, over 25 million that we've seen spent. It is perhaps the most expensive GOP primary for a congressional seat in American history. So with all that understood, last Tuesday morning, I'm just minding my business, right? Just humble little kind of amateur journalist in the Florida Panhandle, doing my thing, drinking my coffee. I get on social media, I get on the news, I see Thomas Massie, accuser comes forth, he's an abuser, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, it's a week before the election, right? You can't script it. Seems like an October surprise. Yes. So I'm like, well, let's see what's going on. So I double click into it, get a little bit more, and I see there's a video testimony of the accuser coming against Massie. I'm like, well, let's check it out. And bada bing, bada boom, it's the woman in the picture, Cynthia West. And I nearly spit out my coffee, Michael, because I know this woman. She lives somewhat near me. We have been a part of grassroots, conservative, patriotic things in our community together. She's attended some meetings I've organized. I've attended some meetings she has organized just through grassroots conservatism in the Florida Panhandle. Don't know her that well, but I did know of her. So I was floored that this happened. And that she came forward. And I will add that she mentioned to me anecdotally months and months and months ago that she had at one point in time in her life had a relationship with Massie. And I just thought, oh, interesting. But she didn't say anything negative at that time. And for all I knew, it could have been back in college or in high school. Like, I had no idea. So it just kind of went over my head. So I listened to the interview that she gives, the testimony with the attorney from Kentucky. And in Marcus Kari is his name, the attorney she did the interview with. So I'm listening to this, and Wes says that Massie pushed her to do things that were uncomfortable, and then he emotionally abused her, that he offered her hush money to leave her job, and then insinuated that she was basically targeted after wanting to make ethics complaints against Massie as a result. So I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. I start doing some research and I'm like, well, let me just call her. I have her number. I'll just do the journalistic thing and call her. Mm-hmm. So we talk, we end up talking on the record, and she clarifies 3 big points. She clarifies it was not sexual or physical abuse. It was emotional abuse. And this is important because all the talking heads, all the media is saying Massie's a predator. Dan Bongino is reposting images of Cynthia West that says predator addressing Thomas Massie on it, right? You have people saying he's a sexual deviant. You have people saying he offered her hush money to go away and stop talking about, alleged horrible sexual activities. We have people out here saying that she got fired from her job in retaliation for speaking out against Massie, that Massie did a hit job on her after she wouldn't take his hush money and got her fired. All these things are going around. So Cynthia West told me on the record that it was not physical or sexual abuse, that it was mental abuse, which of course that's very, blanket
open to
term.
Interpretation. Yeah,
open to interpretation. So it's mental abuse, not physical or sexual abuse, that she did get $5,000 from Massie. She says 10,000. Sometimes she says 5,000. I think it was 10,000 total. Then he offered her 5,000 hypothetically if she would walk away from her job, allegedly. So she says on the record with Marcus Carney that she never took the money. She said on the record in her original testimony, I never took the money. And that yet when I talked to her, she said she did take the money in December of 2024 and then gave it back roughly a month later in January of 2025 after they broke up. So we have 2 things that we've clarified now, Michael. One, it's not physical or sexual abuse. It's mental abuse, whatever that means specifically. And then she did take the money, which was supposed to just help her with, her financial situation. Because at the time they were dating, he gave her this money as kind of a cushion, but it wasn't particularly hush money. Yeah. And then she gave it back after they broke up. So you can't say I didn't take it when you did take it, right?
Yes.
You have to say, well, I took it, but I ultimately gave it back. So we clarified that. That's another contradiction. And then she clarified that the reason she got fired or let go from Victoria Spartz's office, who's a congresswoman from Indiana, was not in retaliation from Massie for, breaking up with her or, filing ethics complaints. It was because West discovered that Victoria Spartz was hiring non-citizens in her office in Congress, and also was, basically frowning upon or prohibiting people who were staffers from attending church. And Cynthia was gathering this information and trying to present it to ethics, something Massie allegedly advised her against. But this is why she got fired. So the narrative crumbles, Michael, on these three pillars: that it was not physical or sexual abuse, that he did not get her fired as a retaliation, that she was in fact fired for her compiling of ethics complaints against her employer that had nothing to do with Massie, the complaints, that is. And then she did take the money, but returned it after they broke up. So all of this is being spun against Massie, and there's no evidence for it. And now Cynthia, unfortunately, is saying that Massie had a sexual affair with Lauren Boebert, that he's doing all this crazy stuff. To me, Michael, my opinion is this is an October surprise to take down Thomas Massie. It's no doubt that they were together. It's no doubt that they dated. They both recognize that. I've got that picture. That was an exclusive picture that Cynthia gave me. That's been verified. But the fact that he would be this sexual predator offering hush money, getting her fired in retaliation, there's no facts to back it up.
Yeah, it just seems like a smear, pure and simple, and that's all there is to it. And now it's expanding. The first attack didn't stick or didn't do enough damage, but again, it's completely dishonest. And honestly, she probably should have filed that ethics complaint. And Spartz, if I'm correct, she's the one who is originally from, Ukraine. So she's hiring illegal aliens. Then just like Ilhan Omar, we should kick her out of Congress and deport her. I don't care if she has an R next to her name or not. Again, if she's breaking the rules, hiring illegals over Americans, not paying them, because I guess that was part of the scandal there, was she was bringing people in, deferring payment, not putting them on the books until they had work permits or whatever. Nope, sorry, break the rules, get the hell out of here. And again, why are you hiring foreign nationals to work in Congress over Americans? This makes zero sense.
And West has presented this to ethics, just to be clear. She has presented this, and she was offered some sort of a settlement in response, right? It was this NDA with $60,000, etc. So she has taken this to the various, lawyers and legal teams within the House. Unfortunately, not much has happened, and that's kind of one of the edges she's taking. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to add this.
You're fine.
One of the edges she's taking to this is, well, I'm coming to speak about issues in the House with regards to accountability, generally speaking, but ultimately all it's about is Massie. Like she is talking about this other side of the issue, but you notice a lot of the interviews she gives, it's Massie, and all the things with him. And then at the end, it's, oh, well, I also saw all this stuff with, issues and hiring non-citizens and people not being able to attend church and all this stuff. And that's ultimately why I want to share this. So it's like, then, why now? Right? Yeah. Why she left that job in March of 2025, right? Over a year ago. Like, why now? Why now? And she wasn't under an NDA. She wasn't taking hush money, by her own words, apart from the 4 weeks roughly she had it, and then gave it back. So why wait until now? And that's the big question. That's where the political opportunism, I think, personally comes in. And she used this in her school board race. She was running for school board. She just dropped out, but she was making ads with this, saying, I'm Cynthia West. I stood up to Thomas Massie. I'm running for school board. So it's unfortunate. Obviously, and I want to say this too. Massie also had a lapse of judgment, in my opinion, right? You do have to admit this. His wife died in July. They started, or June or July. They started dating roughly 2 months after West and Massie did. He was obviously having premarital sex. He was obviously, staying with her and living with her, taking her on trips. That wasn't the right thing to do. However, it's hardly criminal, and it's hardly sexual predator, hush money hypocrite. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh yeah, and again, you're exactly right. This is an opportunistic smear machine. It's a desperate attempt, I think, to try to get Ed Gallerin in. I mean, you and I were talking about this other incident he had recently with somebody asking him questions why he doesn't have the balls to debate Massie. Instead, he, just pretends he is standing up to him. I am debating him. I'm debating him right now. This guy has nothing. I've been asking some of the supporters of his that I know. I was like, well, what's his policy positions? What does he stand for? None of them can tell me anything. It's basically, he's going to get rid of Thomas Massie, and apparently that's good enough for them. But these retards,
he's loyal to Trump.
Yeah, exactly. These retards understand that's the problem. They also won't look into Gowron's background. See, he was a never Trumper basically until last week. So you're going there in Kentucky. Make sure you get out and vote for Massie. We don't want another one of these rhino flip-floppers in there that Trump was dumb enough to endorse. We're going to talk about another one here in a minute. And then the attack, for somebody that is so demanding of loyalty, he has no loyalty himself. That is one of the key problems with Trump right now, that in any disagreement at all, he immediately throws them under the bus, and they're the problem. And unfortunately, there's a lot of sycophants that don't have the clarity or the judgment or the state of mind it takes to discern that this is a problem, even though they pretend, I stand against Trump sometimes. But yeah, when it's blatantly obvious and when it's directly goes against something he ran on, like say the FISA, renewing FISA. But yeah, otherwise, this is a real problem. Massie is a constitutionalist. He's one of the leading conservatives in Congress and has been. Sorry you don't like that he wants to hold Trump to the same standard he would have held Biden to. But that we need more people like that, more people that actually have principles and aren't just rubber stamping whatever the executive or whoever else wants. We need more people like that to hold our feet to the fire. I mean, we're $39 trillion in debt right now, so demanding easing off spending seems like something we should probably do before we end up in a death spiral where, and we're already close to this, by the way, where interest on the debt alone exceeds GDP, so we can never pay it off. So we are rapidly approaching that moment. Some people think we're already past it. I mean, if interest rates get up to interest on the debt gets up to just historic averages, suddenly we're bankrupt. We can't pay for anything. So we're lucky they've stayed as low as they have, but I don't expect that to be the case for much longer. But, again, we really need somebody like Massie. So if you're in Kentucky, get out there, vote, make sure we keep him in Congress. We also need to send a message, again, that we aren't going to just be led around. I mean, we really do need to start looking past Trump to the future of the Republican Party. He only has 2.5 years left. We need future leaders. We can't be dependent on one person. I mean, this is part of the issue with the Democrat Party right now. It's gone on for so long. Is Obama's been at the helm. He's been taking them in his direction, going all the way back since 2008. They don't have another real crop of leaders coming up. We all laugh about it all the time that they've got a greasy used car salesman, AOC, and a few other people vying for the presidential ticket, and none of them have wide party support. I mean, Kamala Harris is still coming in the top of some of these polls, and God, I hope she runs again because she'll just get blown out of the water. But they have no bench, and we don't want to end up in that same situation. We need more leaders. We need more people taking the reins and really taking the mantle of America first and moving that forward. But I also wanted to bring up something else that you sent, this truth post where your photo got stolen.
Yeah, crazy story, right? I didn't have it on my bingo card this month for the President of the United States to take my photo and repost it. But that's what happened. Unfortunately, he didn't do it the right way. We had the picture on the left, and it actually had the Liberty Sentinel watermarks. But that one went out, and obviously look at Cynthia's necklace, right? It has a rhinestone on it, you can see. And then you look at the picture on the right, the one the president posted, and there's no rhinestone. It is a completely different necklace. The colors are a little different. You can tell Massie, his eyes look a little more shiny. His skin's a little, it's just obviously run through AI.
Yes.
And the president did this. So, very interesting. Obviously, you didn't read the article. If you would have read the article published at libertysentinel.org, he would have seen that it exonerates Massie of most of the serious claims, but he took the photo and republished it anyway. And he's done so as well with Laura Loomer's pictures and everything else. But it's very unfortunate that he just stole the picture and didn't read the article. And he's using this as some sort of a tactic to be able to push the narrative that Massie is obviously guilty, which is not true.
Yes. I want to get to one other aspect that you did touch on this earlier, but Massie versus Gallerin. What's the skinny on the most expensive House primary in U.S. history? And as you said, this is it's an insane amount of money. You said 25 million total. I've actually seen 27 million reported, so that may include money from PACs or something else in it as well. But again, we're wasting this exorbitant amount of money when we could be putting in replacing some actual rhinos, some real problems throughout the country with this. But instead, we're focusing on this race with Massie, this personal vendetta that Trump has against him for whatever reason. I know they've bumped heads and they don't get along on everything. But again, Massie sticks to his principles. That's the way he votes. And he has come around and voted for, when he's been the deciding vote before, or it's one away, he has changed his position and voted for it. But of course, like, oh, that's because he has to. The people that are in this camp against him for whatever reason, again, just out of touch with reality. They don't portray these things realistically. And again, he's fighting for the right things. We need more people that will stand on these principles. And maybe we wouldn't keep including, $40 million a week in spending bills for the Taliban and all the other crap the GOP allows in these bills. We wouldn't, a lot of the stuff from that Doge found, it was refunded through other means by Congress. And again, the Republicans are in control. Why is this happening? Why can't we just cut off the machine and stop funding drag shows in Lesotho, funding the Taliban, funding our enemies around the world, and sending gazillions of dollars to foreign countries? It's got to stop.
Yeah. And Massie, as you said, it's not that he is favorable to one nation or the other. This is very principled stance that he takes. He has repeatedly been against foreign aid. He's repeatedly been against foreign wars. He's repeatedly been against expanding and extending the debt. He's repeatedly been against FISA and, unconstitutional searches, big tech, all these different things he's been principled on. And all it is based on Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, which says what Congress can and cannot do. That's what he's following. And you might not agree with that, but it's more about your stance on the Constitution than it is your opinion of Thomas Massie. So that is what this is ultimately about. And left and right are scared of the Constitution because it limits and decentralizes power. That's the truth, folks, is that left and right hates the Constitution because it limits and decentralizes power. And Thomas Massie is the type of guy who has been consistent in his stance of voting for constitutional measures and voting against unconstitutional measures. And that is why they're going after him, in my opinion. All the polling shows that this is a 50-50 race. But if Massie loses this, I just want to frame the stakes here. If Massie loses this, it illustrates that if you go against the president, if you go against the administration, if you go against the establishment regime, you are going to lose everything. That is going to be the new norm, that Trump's endorsement is galvanized, that he controls the Republican Party, that if you vote against his desires, you're toast. And if Massie wins, it shows that Trump's stranglehold on the GOP isn't as strong as we thought, that there is an audience for this principled approach, that we can have MAGA and constitutionalism, that they're not contradictory, they're actually complementary if done properly, and that these silly warm body endorsements that the president has made aren't standing with the base. And this would be a great realignment if Massie wins for the president. If he takes this properly and recognizes, hey, you know what, maybe I need to readjust my sails, that would be a huge win for the movement. But Massie losing is going to be a massive deficit, a massive issue, a massive heartache for the true patriotic cause, because it will prove that the Republican Party is no longer following the Constitution. They're no longer following principles. They're following pretty much, unfortunately, the whims of Trump. And people might listen to me say that and say, oh, he's a leftist, he's this, that, or the other. I am more nationalist. I am more conservative. I am more radical than the president himself. I am a hardline right winger, 100% every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I'm just saying that Massie is kind of the embodiment, right, of what a constitutional congressman can be. And if they get rid of him, it proves that this formula the president has cooked up is unfortunately all too successful.
Yes. And again, we need to return to that. We've said it over here on this program that we would just return to the Constitution. That would probably solve 98% of our problems right there.
Yes.
You know, that, but unfortunately, again, our side lacks the courage to really do what's necessary there, and they also benefit from the undue power. Um, they benefit from this. They like the consolidation. They like it when they're in control. But if we would get back under the Constitution, we wouldn't be dealing with half these issues. We wouldn't be sending money to leering centers around the country. We wouldn't be involved in most of these wars. We could go back to actually being the nation as intended and designed by our founding fathers. We could return to American greatness. The spending and the rest of this is just a symptom of a greater problem, and that is not living under the Constitution. We have to return to this, even if it's temporarily painful. And we will be far better off in the long run, and we won't be able to be controlled by foreign nations holding our debt and treasuries. We won't have interference from so many other countries and so many political insiders that are not doing what's best for the country, what's doing what's best for their friends, for their corporations, for whoever they represent. We can get a lot of these things back under control if we would just return to the restraints in the Constitution. Because as you said, like, that's what the Constitution is designed to do. It's just restrained government and protect the people, and that's why they hate it, and that's why they hate people like Massie that want them to actually live up to our values as a nation. I want to bring up one other element within this story, and that is, and again, we've alluded to this multiple times, the Trump endorsement trap is undermining constitutionalists. Boebert now in the crosshairs for supporting Massie. And again, this is disgusting. Anybody, it doesn't matter how loyal they've been, how many times they put their neck out or whatever, but if you stand against one thing, suddenly you're out. We cannot have a functioning republic if this is what the system we're operating under. You know, Lauren Boebert has done a lot more to advance the conservative agenda than she's ever done to stand against it. But for some reason, there's a vendetta against Massie, and anybody that takes that same position, suddenly they're part of the problem too. That you ignore everything else that she's done, all the stands that she's taken. Yeah, I mean, it really is just upside down and backwards.
Yeah, and I wrote this article on the newamerican.com kind of analyzing this because Boebert came out strong in support of Massie in this primary against Gallerin. And Trump posted on Truth that she was dumb, that she was a carpetbagger. He said if anyone wants to run against her, that individual will have Trump's support. He said that Congressman Thomas Massie is the worst Republican congressman in the history of our country. Anybody who can be that dumb to like support him deserves a good primary fight. So he didn't mince words, right? Total warfare on Boebert. She came back in response and said, hey, I knew this was a risk I was going to take when I was running, this support campaign to help my friend Thomas Massie. No hard feelings. I can be for Thomas Massie and also be MAGA and a friend of Trump's. And I agree. But again, you see a 93% constitutional voting record from Boebert on the Freedom Index. And Marjorie Taylor Greene made a really good point, is that who are the Republicans Trump is going after the most? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, and probably soon Nancy Mace. Well, those four are the only four Republicans who initially supported the Epstein Files Transparency Act when they initiated the what would they call it? The discharge petition to release these files. Those four, Mace, Massie, Boebert, and Greene, were the only four Republicans who supported it. And now, in turn, they are all getting attacked by the president. So it's very odd. And of course, these are people, again, who all supported Trump, have all endorsed Trump, have all campaigned for Trump, who net vote for Trump's agenda very hard. But on a few issues like foreign aid, like Epstein, they've said, hey, well, wait a minute, let's take a more principled constitutional stance, and have gone against the president. And, you look at that and how it infuriates Trump versus somebody like Lindsey Graham, right, who has Trump's full support and love. Graham is against more things than Trump is by rhetoric and history than these people are. These people, Massie, Boebert, Greene, all of them, they have far more in common with Trump, and yet they're his arch nemesis. And then you have somebody like Lindsey Graham, who's buddy, and yet they disagree on more. So make it make sense, right? And I end the article with kind of this argument of Trump's endorsement obviously carries power. And I kind of go through some of the history of his endorsement and the debacle behind it, right? Randy Fine supporting him in Southern Florida was a big controversy. Herschel Walker, the issues with Dr. Oz. You go back and look at the Missouri 2022 Senate GOP primary, where you had former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens running against outgoing AG Eric Schmidt. Trump endorsed days before Eric. They're both named Eric, right? So he endorsed them both, right? This vagality that caused issues. He's doing the same in Arizona right now with Andy Biggs's race for governor. Of course, Andy Biggs is a congressman from Arizona. He's running for Arizona governor. He has a primary opponent, Karen Taylor Robson, who Trump endorsed as well. He's endorsed both, despite the late, great Charlie Kirk heavily endorsing and campaigning for Andy Biggs. Yes. So we've just seen this over and over again in my own neck of the woods. We have Jimmy Patronis, Florida's former CFO. Trump pre-endorsed him. He said, if Jimmy should decide to run, he has my endorsement. He does this all the time, right? Before somebody even throws their hat in the ring, expresses public interest, he posts and says, if they decide to run, they have my endorsement. And then, of course, who doesn't want to do that, right? The president just said, if I run for this, I'll have his support. It'll be guaranteed. So he ends up, determining elections. He's doing the same thing right now in Florida's gubernatorial election. Byron Donalds pre-endorsed him. If Byron decides to run, he has my full endorsement. So I end the article with the argument that Trump would be far more productive using this power to codify his agenda legislatively. He should go to Congress and say, hey, I want complete and full funding for a border wall and mass deportations, and I want that to be funded within 2 weeks. And if you don't, every Republican who votes against it, I will primary. That would be a far more productive use of his endorsement power. Hey, I want you guys to introduce legislation to get us out of the UN and actually pass the Defund Act that Chip Roy and Mike Lee introduced. Every Republican who votes against that, I will primary. That will be a more productive use of this endorsement rather than let's just find a couple people who are disloyal and ruin their lives. And I hope the president will wake up to that, Lord willing, if Massie wins today.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is the other thing that I just don't understand. Like, these are the conservative thought leaders that we have in Congress right now. And suddenly, I'm almost impressed with how you can pull the wool over people's eyes, or maybe it's just their blind loyalty, and make them forget all that. All the things, these are the people we were cheering for while Biden was in office. These are the ones that were really fighting back. They were actually trying to accomplish something, trying to hold their feet to the fire, pointing out the hypocrisy. These were the warriors standing up for J6 defendants and other people while Biden was in office. And suddenly we want to forget all that because, again, I guess this administration, you guys don't like the talking point, but I don't know how you get around it either, that they are doing more to protect pedophiles than they are to make arrests. That's the reality of the situation. Right. We still have the DOJ out there pretending, oh, well, there's nobody to arrest. I guess these people are all just trafficked to no one. We can't find any crimes in all these files. Wham, wham, wham. Well, that's got to stop. We either have equal justice under the law or we don't. I don't buy any of these excuses I hear from people trying to defend it, like, oh, well, if this happens, the stock market could collapse, or we'd be destroying critical infrastructure within our government and our intel agencies. Well, that's too bad. You either follow the law or you don't. This is never going to go away. There is always going to be the shadow of a super government, of people being run by blackmail and everything else. Unless we get into this, and I don't care if Mossad or the CIA or whoever else had their hands in this, we can still prosecute them. I don't understand how that's somehow a negative either in their minds. But again, these are the people that actually have principles. They've stuck to them. And they should be supported, not thrown out over some petty beef because you don't like Thomas Massie because, again, he wants actual accountability and wants the DOJ to actually do their job. I mean, that's one of the biggest failures of this administration is the DOJ has essentially accomplished nothing. I know they were teasing out again that we were going to arrest Brennan a couple weeks ago. That, by the way, that was for the 9th time that they've said that. And like I said when we ran the story a couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to be holding my breath. I don't believe that we're going to be covering how they arrested him in the middle of the night or any of that, or even that they allowed him to turn himself in. They were going to do it. It was going to happen. It would have happened by now. But as we keep hearing from other people within the DOJ that have left, and as we see self-evident with our own eyes, they have no intention of prosecuting any of these deep staters. I do think they're going to pursue some of the other stuff. We're going to talk about elections here in a minute when we change topics and how some of that's moving forward. Obviously, they're gone after the SPLC and accomplished a few other things. But again, that's not what we all voted for. We voted for justice. We voted for removing the deep state and throwing them in jail. I hoped that Trump would have learned his lesson from his first term, from not arresting and prosecuting Hillary Clinton, that you can't play nice with these people. But the evidence in front of me says otherwise. So until that changes, again, and this is part of why voters are not turning up at the polls right now, that in a lot of states we have record low turnout. It's not universal, but the exceptions have been to replace rhinos, or where there's real conservative candidates running, that those races individually, all of a sudden people will get off their butts and go out to the polls. But otherwise, people are staying home. I mean, it's not good going into these midterms. We may be able to hold off the Democrats from retaking the House, but it won't be because the Republicans are good and they accomplish things. It's going to be because of redistricting, in a fight that we also should have taken up a decade ago. And also, I mean, that's another disappointment. I mean, we should have flipped. There should be 30 Democrat VRA districts that are gone right now, but half these states can't find their testicles and do anything about it. Harmeet Dillon threatened to force some of them to. She really needs to do that, like, immediately, so we're not having excuses all, oh, this is too close to the election now, it's going to have to go into effect 2028. Nope. We got to start this immediately, push this process through. We have to fight as hard as the Democrats do, and we have to take every advantage we possibly have, use the power, use the courts, use everything else for victory. But we've got to remove some of these rhinos in the process, or it doesn't matter. These victories will be false.
Precisely. And Massie had a great quote. Somebody confronted him in the Capitol and they said, why do you vote against Donald Trump? And why do you vote against MAGA? And he said, I vote with Republicans and with Donald Trump 95% of the time. The other 5% is when they're starting an unconstitutional foreign war protecting pedophiles. And he walked away. And that's the truth. I mean, that is the truth. And, you know, people can scoff at that and say, you know, hey, the Trump is doing this or 5G chess that. But the bottom line is that we had the biggest Epstein disclosure in history, and who's been arrested. And then you look at, the Iran war, and despite your opinions on it, I think we can all agree that per Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11, it is an unconstitutional war by definition. So yes, both of those statements would be true, right? So that is where we're at, and Massie has to win this. And if he doesn't, like I said, we are going to feel, I think, the wrath of the midterms. I think we are going to see Trump see that his formula works. He will continue to go after more people like Lauren Boebert. He will go after more people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And soon you are going to have a Republican Party within the Congress that is feckless, that has no fidelity to the Constitution, and they just have this favor economy relationship with Trump. And then the big question is, what happens once he leaves?
Yes. See, and that's what we got to start looking to is Trump is not forever. He only has 2.5 years. We have to build a movement that can survive him leaving office.
Correct.
So I want to bring up one other person to your attention here. This might make a good meal. Trump-backed Arizona congressional candidate Jay Feely defends Haitians eating pets, calls Trump's comments derogatory. I'm frozen again. Sorry, guys. I'm still fixing. But so this is yet another example of that's running right now, and where they're actually at. And that's prior to this whole fight with Massie. Even we've talked about this numerous times on here, that some of these endorsements I just don't understand. Like, if it was just Lindsey Graham, I could maybe say, okay, well, maybe they're friends, maybe it isn't just because of his voting record. Maybe it's because they're friends or other things outside of politics. And I could kind of like let the one slide. But there's been so many of these now where he's endorsed just rhinos that have turned around to stab us in the back. But they're ready for that endorsement. They'll take it and they'll pretend to be America first, pro mega until after the election, and then suddenly they're there with their knife out, sticking it right in our back. And I think Ed Gowron's going to be another one of these. He's going to be another eye patch McCain. Yes. He's trying to hide behind his military record, use that for a shield rather than actually running on issues, answering questions, debating, or doing anything. Like I said, he was a never Trumper. You guys can look it up yourself. and I've noticed most of the marketing material that I've seen for Gowron, it doesn't mention anything about policy positions. It just
Correct.
touts his military service record and that he's endorsed by Trump, and he's going to take out the rhino, Thomas Massie. Um, but again, you guys have to have more than that. If that's your entire position, then this is not somebody we need to be putting in office. This is an opportunist, and of course they're going to be They're going to be flexible. The minute they have the power secured, that's when we're going to see the horns come out.
And the same thing's going on across the country. Jimmy Petronis, who's my congressman, same issue. You go on his website; he's running for re-election right now. You click on the website, and it's a picture of him and Trump with Trump's endorsement. No policy, no statements, no agenda, nothing. Right?
No.
And usually it's the inverse, right? When you have an incumbent running against a primary challenger, the incumbent won't debate the primary challenger. Because why? Why give yourself that vulnerability? But now you have Massie, who's the incumbent, showing up to debates, and there's an empty seat next to him, and it says Ed Galler, and he's doing an invisible handshake. It's just bizarro world, and it all comes back to the Trump endorsement. They make the signs in the same font as Trump. They put the only Trump-backed candidate. They run a couple ads with a picture of them and Trump, and they hope that the old folks and the Fox News boomers and stuff, they'll be like, that's Trump's guy. That's who we're going to vote for. And that's the end of the story. And it has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with principle. It purely is tribalism. And we have to move past this because the personality cult, the political loyalties of all this, they are going to fade and be gone in a few years. But principles are forever.
Yes. And, I can understand if you're miles ahead, like it's not even a close race and you're the incumbent, not going to a debate. I disagree with it because I think everybody should, because it should only strengthen your positions no matter who you are. But I just think it's an act of cowardice, especially if you're the outsider trying to come in and take the seat. Shouldn't people be able to see what your positions are, see how you do under fire? But again, these are cowards. They're opportunists in a lot of these cases, and they're just hoping they can pull the wool over people's eyes long enough to take a seat. Now, maybe some of them are good. Maybe they're better than the incumbent. Maybe not. But again, refusing to debate is not a valid policy position. And again, if the situation reversed, we call it out. Everybody's been talking about Karen Bass in L.A. that after she got her clock cleaned at this last debate, now she's afraid to go debate what's his name out there, the hopefully future mayor of L.A. But it looks very defensive. Now, again, I can understand, if it was a slate of 10 debates or whatever from all the local news agencies and clubs and whatever, and you're like, I don't have time for this. I can't do 10 of them, but I'll do 3 of them or whatever. But again, failure to appear, period, not defend your positions, not articulate what you're going to do when you get to Congress, because it isn't just about taking the seat. You have to actually have policies, plans, whatever, or we're just going to end up with another useless tool that doesn't accomplish our agenda. And that's been the big problem. That's, again, why voters are unhappy right now. It's Congress just sitting there with their thumb up their ass most of the time, not doing anything. Let's shift topics a little bit here and into elections and some fraud investigations that are finally starting. All right. So let me pull this up so I can actually read it. RNC Chair Joe Gruters announces 130 lawsuits filed across 32 states to stop Democrat election shenanigans as President Trump deploys army of election lawyers to stop the steal. I keep freezing. But this isn't too little too late. We should have started on this path a while ago. Because we really, here, actually, let me just go and pull our next story too. Nope, we'll get to that in a second. Sorry, guys, I'm having some technical difficulties over here. This is an effort in 32 different states. But once again, if Congress would actually get their butts in gear, pass the SAVE Act instead of letting Thune continue to block it and continue the filibuster, a lot of these would be unnecessary. But we have states that are still out of compliance. They won't hand over voter rolls. They won't remove dead voters and other illegal aliens and other people from the rolls. Instead, they're making us fight it out in court. We have to have free, fair, and honest elections. The people don't trust them right now. Majority of the country wants some of these changes. But breaking the Democrat machine, again, should always be part of our agenda here as Republicans. We should be using all the tools and all the power we have, all legal means, to crush our opponents any way humanly possible. The days of getting along are behind us, so we need to tear the machine apart.
Yeah, precisely. And unfortunately, the election integrity issue is a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, you have the fact that election integrity is a real issue and elections are stolen. And then on the other hand, you have issues like what I think and forecast will be on the menu moving forward. A Republican Party that will claim election fraud in excuse for bad policies.
Yeah.
Because that is where we're at. People are very simple minded. They don't pay attention to politics like you and I do, or like, people who are listening to the show do.
Mhm.
They just look at, commercials. They look at, things on social media. They look at quick sound bites and they see no new wars. They see, Epstein accountability, whatever the case may be, lower gas prices, cheaper America. And they are like, hey, none of that happened. So I'm voting Democrat, right?
Yep.
And I think what's going to happen, unfortunately, is we're going to see a lot of Republicans in the general election, in the midterms, lose. And you're going to have Republicans blame this on election fraud, which I don't think is going to be fully the justification or reason for the loss. I think it's going to be for bad policy and not actually delivering on the campaign promises the president made over the last 10 years.
Yes. Yeah, and I already see it. They've already said, oh, it's election fraud in a lot of these races that we've lost so far this year that we shouldn't have. Now, I will excuse the Pennsylvania and a couple of the ones that happened early on after the last election where the party just didn't get out there in front of things. And one of them, I know we had like a really awful candidate that locally was just not liked. And sorry, I'm not remembering which state that was right now. But some of the early losses that happened, okay, fine. But the rest of these should not have. We should not have lost the mayor in Miami or this representative in Mar-a-Lago or anybody else. But it's because people are not excited about things. They're not turning out. We don't have any real fighters. I mean, look, again, Spencer Pratt now is neck and neck. He's within the margin of error of Karen Bass in California, a Democrat stronghold, because he will actually get out there and fight and articulate our viewpoints and get people excited. Whereas otherwise, we have a bunch of these namby-pamby wuss losers out there running that everybody knows that half of them are just undocumented Democrats, that they might have an R next to their name, but they're not going to vote like a Republican or actually fight once the election's over. Oh yeah, they'll send out some strongly worded letters and some fundraising emails, but we need fighters. The left's election fraud denials crumble as DOJ exposes 2-decade-long California cheating scheme. And let me go ahead and pull our next one here too, because breaking news, California woman to plead guilty to paying homeless people on Skid Row to register to vote. We know these kind of schemes have been going on forever, but now James O'Keefe went out there and actually exposed some of these. Again, hat tip to other people too, like Nick Sorter, Nick Shirley, Right Side Rebel, and others that have gone out and are covering a lot of these stories that our mainstream media refuses to do, and have highlighted just this level of fraud. It's not just California, it's numerous other states where this is going on. But thank God we're finally getting an arrest here, but it's not enough. Most of these things go up the chain. We know, we already have on video too in California, and I don't know if it's connected to the same woman that's getting ready to plead guilty or not, but we had representatives from Bass's office admitting that they were benefiting from this. They knew it was going on, so they're certainly not going to prosecute, especially if they know that it's helping them. And how do they know that? How do they know these voters, these California voters that are being signed up by these organizations, their votes then sent to addresses which they control? Presumably the ballots are then filled out by operatives there and then sent in to ensure Democrat victories. How is it they know that? Well, again, everybody knows the truth that this is a machine. This has gone on for a long time. Yes, there's always going to be some level of voter fraud. You can't stamp out every little individual that acts everywhere, but we can take care of organized efforts like this. And the way you do that is by putting the perpetrators in jail, locking them up, throwing away the key. I mean, I really think we need like a betrayal of the public trust crime or something like that to tack onto it to make sure they are in prison for the rest of their lives at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you have this issue of accountability, not delivering on these things. And this is just what we know, folks. This is just what we know. Imagine what we don't know. And I know JD Vance has been looking into the fraud and he's been looking into a lot of the things that happened as a result of Nick Shirley's expose and to, the Somali leering centers. But ultimately, we haven't seen too much come out of it, and hopefully it'll happen. But as Ed Martin told me a few months ago, they're waiting on all of this stuff until after the midterms. They're not going to do anything pre-midterms. And if they're not doing anything pre-midterms, then you do have to kind of rationally think, well, are they even going to do anything pre-2028, right? Or are they just going to say, hey, you have to vote for JD or Marco to be able to get the goods, right? We'll see how far they kick the can down the road. It's hostage taking, yeah. And, this is ridiculous. And, I don't side with like Nick Fuentes or somebody who says, hey, we need to vote for Democrats to teach the GOP a lesson. However, they're going to have to learn a lesson one way or the other. And that lesson very well may be voting for somebody who is, very unconventional, that is not in the MAGA sphere for president against JD Vance or Marco Rubio. And it's also going to be for voting for people like Thomas Massie and voting against Trump's endorsements. So I'm telling people, my diagnosis is, vote for James Fishback over Byron Donalds in Florida.
Yes.
Vote for Thomas Massie over Ed Gallerin in Kentucky. Vote for people who are conservatives, who are actually America first, not Democrats like Fuentes is saying, but outside the box candidates who aren't endorsed by Trump but are still on our side. Vote for those guys to send the message that this GOP lockstep Trump Republican Party is not palatable. Mark Lynch in South Carolina, vote for him over Lindsey Graham. Like, we have candidates. It's not that we don't have options. We have Fishback, we have Lynch, we have Massie, we have all these different people. Vote against the Trump endorsed candidates. And I think that will send a message this midterm season that, hey, you guys better deliver, because in 2028, if you didn't like the midterms and Trump's endorsements winning, you're certainly not going to like what we're going to do in 28.
Yeah, don't be blinded by the flash. Vote your actual values. That's the thing. Yeah, don't be blinded just because somebody, this guy served in the military. Well, that used to be a way to determine somebody's patriotism. But again, we should have all learned our lesson with I. Patch McCain, Mark Kelly, and numerous others that try to use that. It's a mask. They hide behind it rather than having policy or a voting record that matches the rhetoric when they ran originally. Everybody saw how this has turned out. Unfortunately, it is not a tool that you can judge a candidate by anymore. It's, and again, it shouldn't have been that way for a while, but people are blinded by military service because it used to mean more than it does today. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that just because they serve doesn't mean they carry good policy forward and are really pro-American. And you go all the way back to like John Kerry to look at that instead it is used to obfuscate and trick people into supporting them. So again, like you said, go out and support real patriots, real people that are putting the Constitution and America first. Vote for Mark Lynch. Vote for Thomas Massie, and there's others too, to buck these endorsements. Because again, removing Lindsey Graham, that would be better for all of us and people all over the world don't have to worry about getting bombed just because Lindsey Graham had a bad day. Right. Well, let's skip over to the other big topic, also with electioneering, because, again, we're running out of time here. And that is what's going on in Georgia right now. The Georgia 2028 election results to be aggregated in a secret bunker. The Secretary of State refusal to allow state election board observers violates law. And let me pull up the next headline here, too. And GOP senators sue Raffensperger, demanding poll watchers be allowed to the secretive bunker where statewide votes are tallied. Transparency should not be controversial. I don't understand. Again, this violates state law. I know there is a suit now to try to prevent this, but why exactly is it they want to bring all the votes into a central location where they can control counting and don't have observers there? Especially, again, when this is in violation of state law, they should be happy to show the process, show that it's transparent, allow observers in from both sides. I want the Democrat to have their person in there, and I want the Republican to have their person in there, and I want all of them to agree that these votes are being tallied appropriately. This seems like another effort to steal something, and again, we already know who Raffensperger and the rest of these people are in Georgia, that they've tried to hide the fraud there for 5 years. We just finally got the ballots down there up to out of I just blanked Fulton County, and now that we're going through those, we've already found out they're 35,000 ballots short. And that's just one county in the 2020 election that they just don't exist. They can't explain it. Oh, the votes must have materialized from nowhere. We just heard, too, they've got 80 arrest warrants now, 80 indictments, I should say, for various people that were involved in this. It might have been more than 80 something. But we already know what's going on there. Now, this appears to be another effort to hide what's going on, to put the votes in a black box, make sure the public doesn't trust them, so that they can hand select the winners in each of these races. And until they allow observation and both parties to check off on it, I'm going to continue to believe that's what's happening.
Yeah, and Tucker made a good point the other night. I was listening to him, and he said those who fight against conspiracies are the conspirators, right? Those who undermine the conspiracy narratives, they are the conspirators. And the same thing is true with transparency and election security, is that those who are fighting against transparency are the perps. They're the perpetrators, right? So that's a really easy way to just figure this out. If somebody's combating transparency efforts, if somebody's combating the truth getting out there, if somebody's combating checks and balances, they are most likely a offender. They are most likely guilty of the thing they're trying to prevent transparency from coming out for. So, because otherwise, why would you fear it? Why would you, what does it even matter? There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to hide. So we need to start thinking that way and recognize that there are these conspiracies in our elections, in our, welfare state, in our election, in our, even small races like Thomas Massie's, which used to be small, now it's huge. These things are all a part of a grand conspiracy to undermine American sovereignty, hurt our freedom of religion, hurt our freedom to have families, and hurt our freedom as a country, to make us into, by the conspirators' own words through the CFR and the UN, a more communist, globalist nation and ultimately world. So that is what we need to be worried about. And those who push back against that, they're most likely involved in on it.
Well, exactly. And that's the track record for Raffensperger, especially, but same with Governor Kemp down there. These guys were not transparent in any of the last several elections, and a lot of people suspect the real concern is the Democrats losing a Senate seat in Georgia, because the polling for them is not great. That, again, the Republicans only had, I think it's just a couple points, slightly outside the margin of error. But this... Raffensperger is clearly an undocumented Democrat, a trans Republican, if you will, somebody that identifies as a Republican, but all of us really know he's a Democrat. Same with Kemp, unfortunately, and a lot of the other, a lot of the GOP in Georgia, they're part of a good old boys club. They want things to go back to business as usual. They really don't like the people that have been standing up and fighting for election integrity there. They've allowed a lot of this activity continue illegally and unconstitutionally by their state constitution and state laws, and they know this. They've slow-walked things through the courts. They spent 5 years trying to prevent examination of the ballots in Fulton County and other counties by voter GA. And now they're trying to hide this election to make sure there's no observers, nobody in there that can verify the results are correct, nobody that's making sure the ballots are being lawfully counted, that they're not including ballots that were not mailed in properly, that don't have proper chain of custody. Because, again, this is one of the problems that we've found in numerous states, chain of custody issues, ballots that have not been formatted properly or sent in through proper channels. And it's got to stop. People have to trust. If we don't have election results that people trust, then we have nothing. We don't have a country. You no longer have the consent of the governed if the governed do not trust their elections. And this is clearly a problem, especially in states like this with repeated abuses. They should be going the opposite direction. He should be out there saying, this is going to be the most transparent election we've ever had. We're going to allow all the observers in that want. It's all going to be filmed. You're going to be able to go back somehow, and maybe we're gonna put barcodes or codes on the votes. You can go in and look at your vote, find out, make sure it was adjudicated correctly, all that. But instead, they want to hide things in this bunker and not allow anybody in to look at the results. Black boxing things is not how you gain the public's trust. Sorry. We're going to have to go back to a lawful process with verification from both parties and public trust. Otherwise, again, you got nothing. Wait till the lawsuits start flying with this one if they allow this to go through and get insane shenanigan results once again.
Yes, precisely. I couldn't agree with you more. And it ultimately does come back to education, that we have to be able to articulate these things, know the facts, understand the situation, and then share it with other people. Because if we're just angry and we're the most educated person in the gulag, that's not worth it. We have to be able to share this, present it effectively with people, and then organize be able to combat this. So I would encourage everybody to, check out the New American, check out the John Birch Society, check out libertysentinel.org, get these materials, watch Ex American News, get this material in your mind, understand it, be able to articulate it, and then do something about it. Because if you don't, it's all worthless. It's all worthless.
Exactly. Well, Andrew, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. If there's any words of wisdom you want to leave our audience with here real quick.
Well, since this has been about Massie in Kentucky, I would just say let's stand behind people who put principles first. The politics of the day change. The wind blows in different directions. Those in positions of power who control the strings are interchangeable. But principles, truth, these things are eternal. These things are forever. The principles that made this country exceptional in 1776 and 1620, when we landed on Plymouth Rock in 1620 and declared independence in 76, those principles are just as applicable, just as true, just as powerful, just as resonant as they ever were. They're not outdated. They don't have an expiration date. These things are like McDonald's cheeseburgers. They're good forever. And you have to be able to understand that, because if you view it as an option, if you view it as something that can be discarded, these principles, then you are left by default with just following personality, following policies that can change, whatever way the wind blows. So that cannot be our anchor. That cannot be our true north as a country. We have to get back to these principles. And Massie, despite his faults, because he has faults, despite his faults, is one of the better people we have in that fight, in that lane. So that is why he has my personal support. That is why this is so important. And if you live in Kentucky's 4th congressional district, I hope you will prayerfully consider making that right choice today.
Well said. Yeah, don't let this mirror machine win, because that's what it is. We are going to be disappointed if you let Gowron in. He has no policy positions, no principles, no anything. It's just about taking out Massie.
Right.
Maybe he's mentioned something, a policy position somewhere, but again, all his marketing material just seems to say, I'm who Trump's endorsed. Wham wham Massie. I was in the military. That's not a principled stand. That's not somebody coming in with better ideas that is going to make America great again or fight for America first. This is somebody that just has an endorsement. We've got to put our foot down about this. And again, we've all been critical of a lot of these other endorsements that Trump's made, from Lindsey Graham to numerous others that are just rhinos. I don't know. Before, I just didn't know what the problem was, but now it just seems more like a personal vendetta. So again, support somebody that actually will take a stand, a constitutional conservative. Go out there, vote for Thomas Massie. Tell your neighbors they're going to vote for Gowron to stay home and or to correct their thinking and go support Massie. We need to take this district. Massie needs to keep his seat. It'll be what's best for America, and it'll send a message that a cult of personality is not enough to run the country. All right, guys, thank you again for joining us today. Andrew, thank you for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. I'll be back tomorrow with even more. Thanks again, guys.